Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business to help educate you on complex legal terms in an easy to understand manner, to help understand why you need to do certain things in your business from a legal point of view, and to help you develop a plan for the future. Our mission at Business Legal Lifecycle is to help empower all small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. Have you ever wanted to get legal advice but didn't understand what was going on? Do you feel like there is a divide between lawyers and their clients? Then this TV show is for you. It is all about empowering you and your business with the knowledge and tools to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. Business Legal Lifecycle TV delivers a twice-weekly show focusing on the legal aspects of your business. At lunchtime on Mondays, we present Fast Fix Monday, a quick 5 to 10 minute show that will give you some actionable steps to consider for the week for your business. And at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we present our in-depth show of between 30 minutes and an hour, where we go through complicated legal aspects of your business in a simple to understand, plain English manner. And whether that is through educational pieces or interviews with experts in their fields.
Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV. Today is Wednesday, so it's our longer form show, and today it's our education piece that we do once a month. We're talking about phase one now in the month of October 2018, and phase one is all about conception. As always, I'm here, Craig Mason, and I also have with me Jeremy Stretton. Say hello to everyone. Jeremy.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great Wednesday.
Excellent. Jeremy's been away recently, so welcome back, Jeremy.
Thank you, Greg.
Good to have you back.
Yep.
All right, so conception. As I said, it's our education show, so it's a longer form show today where we go through a number of things about conception and what you need to look out for and have organised when you're looking at that phase of your business. So, Jeremy, do you want to start up with an end in mind?
Excellent. Well, before that, I might just show the life cycle for anyone who hasn't seen it before. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, or Periscope, then you'll see on the screen I've put up the Business Legal Lifecycle, which is our 13 phases of when you should take certain legal steps in your business. Phase one is, as you'd expect, right at the beginning, and that's conception. So you'll see that it's right at the beginning of the journey, and it's in, we split up the life cycle into 4 different parts. And you'll see here, the first one is startup, the second one is consolidation, the third is scaling, and the fourth is business exit. So startup, as Craig said before, is start up with an end in mind. Now, why do we talk about that? So starting up with an end in mind is really important. Now, if you've ever read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you know that he'll talk about starting up with the end in mind. Now, that's great, and I think that's excellent advice. You should, if you don't know where you're going, how do you ever know that you're going to get there? So you need to start up with the end in mind. But we take a slight twist on that, and we talk about starting up with an end in mind. And the reason that we do that is that the feedback that we have seen from our clients and the people that we work with is that the idea of starting up with the end in mind can actually be quite scary. If you're 30 or 20 or 40, you've got a long period of your life left to go. And starting up with the end in mind can actually seem quite daunting. And often what we find is that clients and business owners don't want to think about the end in mind. They think about that, and I know that's not what Stephen Covey meant, but that's what a lot of people do interpret it. So we've changed that to start up with an end in mind, because what we want to acknowledge is the fact that you need to have some end in your business. Now, when Craig and I started our law firm, Stratton Mason Lawyers, we had no idea that 7 years later we would be doing Facebook Live TV and writing books and doing podcasts. And your goals change every year. So you've got to change, and you've got to be ready to adapt, and you've got to start up with an end in mind. And on that point, Craig mentioned that I've just got back from being away. I was actually in the United States, in Nashville, in Tennessee, at a conference. And the conference was part of a mastermind group that I'm part of over there, called Iron Sharpens Iron. And one of the speakers was a gentleman by the name of Ken Davis. Now, if you don't know who Ken Davis is, look him up. He's written a very famous book called Fully Alive, and it's got lots of great lessons and lots of great stories. And I think there were lots of talks, there were lots of speakers, there were lots of excellent information, and any of the people watching this who were at the conference would know that there's lots of excellent information at the ISI conference. But what he said was, know that your dream is bigger than yourself. And that for me was profound. That was something that I hadn't really thought of before. Where he came from on that was talking about lots of different business owners that he had seen, and especially comedians and people who had achieved everything that they needed to in life and then fell into a depressive cycle. So he used the example of Robin Williams, and Robin Williams was a great comedian, and we all know the tragedy that befell him. And so that was something that really stuck with me, was that know that your dream is bigger than yourself. And that and in my view, that ties in with startup with an end in mind. It ties in with this concept of that you need to have an end in mind, but you need to keep on going and to know that your dream is bigger than you. So Craig, I got a little bit off script there, but I thought I'd share that with our viewers and listeners because I thought that was a really good takeaway. Did you want to say anything more about starting up with an end in mind before we move into the rest of the content?
No, I think let's kick in. Thank you for sharing that information with our viewers and listeners, Jeremy. I think they'll take a lot of value out of that, and check out the book that you mentioned there. We'll have it in our show notes, no doubt, for today's show.
I'll make another comment there that there's actually a Netflix video show about the book. Unfortunately, when I got back to Australia, it's not available on Australian Netflix, so we'll have to wait to see when that comes out. But anyway, that's enough about Ken Davis. We'll kick into the content.
All right, excellent. So the next slide is about a key concept, and that's business versus entity. So when you're starting up your business, you need to think about how you're going to have it structured. So a business is not a legal entity. Your entity will be your company, or it could be you as a sole trader, could be you or a company as a trustee for a trust who then runs a business. But a specific business, as in Bob's Bobcats, is not an actual legal entity that exists. So someone else is trading as that business. So it's an important concept to get your head around, that you need to have some form of structure that owns that business, owns the business name, etc., etc. So the next slide there is an example of, you've got a company there that is ABC Pty Ltd. For people that are listening to it, what I'm describing now is you've got one company, and under that company you've got 4 distinct businesses. So you could have ABC Pty Ltd. Is the entity, and that entity trades as ABC Constructions, ABC Developments, ABC Equipment, and ABC Designs. So that's where you have a company. You'll be the director, and you'll have some structure in terms of the shareholdings. We'll get to it in terms of who you need to talk to about those sorts of things when you're setting this up, but definitely you need some advice. I wouldn't recommend just doing it yourself, because when you're starting up, as Jeremy was saying, with an end in mind, these sorts of structures as to how you think the end is going to be, and the end hopefully is a good thing. It could be a sale, for instance, that these sorts of structures come back into play as to how you've done it at the beginning, as to how you can exit that business the best way possible. So you need to think about these sorts of structures. So you could have that as an example if you were running 4 sort of separate businesses but under the one company. The next slide is an example where you set up 4 different companies. So you've got ABC Constructions Pty Ltd, and it trades as ABC Constructions, which is the business. ABC Developments Pty Ltd, which trades as ABC Developments. ABC Equipment Pty Ltd, and so on, trading as ABC Equipment. So different structures. You've got 4 companies there trading as 4 different businesses, sorry. Or the other slide was you've got one company trading as 4 separate businesses. So something you need to think about when you're looking at this phase of your business, how your structure is going to be in place. And if you are thinking that you might expand into different types of businesses, then that's a consideration that you need to have now, as well as to how you're going to structure that business. So it's a key concept to get your head around at the beginning as to how your structure is going to be. Thinking about companies, talking to accountants, talking to lawyers, very important at the beginning, so you can ensure that you've got a good business and able to exit that business or do things in that business along the way as you adjust and enter into new phases or new products or whatever it might be, that you can manipulate that easy as possible. So yeah, that's a key concept, business versus entity. Did you want to add anything to that, Jeremy, or you want to go on to the next?
No, I think that was a great explanation, Craig. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is business purchase. So at the beginning, I got a little bit off track with with talking about what happened at my conference on the weekend. But the idea of this section is to really talk about the different ways that you can actually start up a business. So, when we talk about conception, this is about figuring out how you're actually going to start your business. And there are a few different ways. The first one is business purchase, and I'm going to talk about that now. The second one is share purchase, and Craig's going to talk about that. The next one is share subscription. And the last one is a new business, an entirely new business. And the reason for the importance of what Craig just spoke about around the key concept of business versus entity is that it really matters for the way that you're actually going to buy the business or start the business through one of these four options. So a business purchase is just that. It's buying a business. So anyone who's bought a home or a car or anything before will know that there's a process that goes into buying a product or a service. And when you buy a business, that's no exception. So a business purchase, you'll have a business and that will be you buying the business. And as Craig talked about it before, you've got the business that might be ABC Constructions, say, from the example that Craig used before. And you might buy ABC Constructions, and that ABC Proprietary Limited, or in the second example, ABC Constructions Proprietary Limited, still remains the sellers. You've just bought the business of ABC Constructions. Now, this is a really important concept to understand, that a business is really separate from the entity behind it. So, if you look at our law firm, just to use it as an example, we have a company, SMS Proprietary Limited, that trades Stretton Mason Lawyers. We could sell Stretton Mason Lawyers as a separate business. Think about any business that's out there. The business can be sold. You can buy what they call the goodwill of the business. You can buy the plant and equipment. You can buy the intellectual property that business owns. So there are many ways that you can buy a business, but it's a really key concept to understand that difference, that you're buying the business, not the entity behind it. And this can be very useful. Say if you've got Joe Smith trading Joe's Mechanics. Joe Smith can't very well sell himself, but he can sell Joe's Mechanics, and that's a separate business that a buyer can buy. So that's a short overview of a business purchase. Craig, do you want to talk about a share purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. So share purchase is where, say you had ABC Constructions, Pty Ltd, trading as ABC Constructions. In a share purchase, rather than buying ABC Constructions, the business, you would actually be buying the shares in ABC Constructions, Pty Ltd. And then, as Jeremy said, rather than the seller keeping the company, you would actually become the shareholder and the director of that company, and it will continue along that way. You need to obviously do all your due diligence when you're doing these sorts of things with a business purchase or a share purchase. When you're doing a share purchase in that context, you're obviously stepping into the company. You don't have any personal liability necessarily, depending on whether or not you sign any personal guarantees, but you are sort of taking on whatever's in that company, and there could be some things you might want to look at before you purchase those shares. So it's an alternative to purchasing the actual business. You're purchasing the shares in the company that happens to own and run that business. So many ways to be right. There's different circumstances where both of those would apply and be fine. But again, just need to seek the advice and do the due diligence about the company and the business before you enter into those sorts of transactions. Jeremy, next slide.
Yep, the next slide is share subscription. So you need to understand the difference between a share purchase and a share subscription. So where Craig was talking about share purchase, where someone buys the shares and then buys the business, you can actually subscribe new shares to someone coming into the business if you're going to buy that business, or that company, sorry, I should say, not business, if you're going to buy that company. So say if you've got 10 shares in a company and you want to bring in someone as an equal shareholder, you can actually just have them buy the 10 shares as equal to be an equal shareholder, or they could buy 2 shares and be an unequal shareholder. So a share subscription is an important difference to a share purchase, because you're basically subscribing shares. Now, why would you do things differently? Well, the main reason is tax. There are different tax implications for a share purchase and a share subscription, and we're going to talk a bit later about the different consultants that you need to talk about or talk to when you're in this phase and your initial team of the business legal lifecycle. However, just bear in mind that this is a key. There are key differences between the two, and you need to get the right advice from your accountant to make sure that you're setting yourself up correctly and doing the right structure and the right way to start the business so that you're setting yourself up for success. So that's share subscription. Craig, do you want to talk about new businesses?
Yeah, so new business, I mean, that title sort of speaks for itself in the sense that you're setting up an entirely new business. So rather than buying a business or buying the shares in the company, wherever it might be, you basically use that money to set up a new business. So with anything, obviously you've got your concept, you've done your research, you know that it's or you hope that it's a viable business. You then go about putting the structure in place as to how you're going to operate that business, and following things like the business legal lifecycle about what legal things you need to get in place at the beginning, talking to your accountant, those sorts of consultants about the best way of starting up a new business. And then obviously you start it up and you trade and hope you get customers and go through the cycle, the life cycle, getting customers, bringing on employees, etc. So that's a new business where you're starting basically from scratch. You're setting up structures, you're entering into a lease, whatever it might be, depending on your business, and you're going out there and getting customers. And an exciting step, starting up a new business. There's, as I said before, many disadvantages and advantages for all of these that we're talking about. And it's really just talking to your consultants, thinking about it, and making a considered decision with all the right advice in place as to which one's the best for you. So that is new business, Jeremy. Do you want to add anything to that slide?
I think that's good. I think now we're going to go through the different entities, and we're just going to do this briefly. In last month, so we're in October 2017. Not last month. In August 2018, in our education show, we talked about the different types of entities. But I think it's important now just to quickly have a chat around those so that people can understand the concepts and what they actually mean. So the first one I've brought up is a company. So a company is a separate entity, separate from the people behind it. And if you want to know more about this, you can check out our previous shows. But with a company, you've got 2 main roles. You've got the director of the company and you've got the shareholders. Now, with a company, the directors have the day-to-day management of the company, so they get to operate the business day-to-day. They've got a lot of the responsibilities that we've talked about previously as well about their directors' duties. Then you've got the shareholders, and the shareholders really own the company. They own the share capital in the company, so they own the company and they get the benefit of the income. Craig, I think that's probably all we need to go through with the company. Do you want to go through a trust?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the slide there shows, you've got, and for those that are listening, you've got the trustee. You've also got the appointor. So the trustee, in the instance of what we're talking about now, could be a company as trustee for the ABC Constructions Trust, trading as ABC Constructions. The appointor is the person that has the power to remove trustees, so an appointor is a very important role. The trustee acquires legal ownership, and the beneficiaries have the beneficial ownership of that. So it's pretty common sort of structure when it comes to businesses. You would find a lot of businesses would be trading through a trust or have a trust involved somewhere in the structure, be it through the shareholding or from the ultimate trustee company that's trading the business. So probably something your accountant's going to suggest potentially you do, depending on the type of business. But pretty common concept is the trust setup in this instance.
Yep.
Then we have, so that's a discretionary family trust. Then Jeremy, you've got the next slide there is about another trust, which is a unit trust.
Yeah, so this is very similar to a discretionary trust, except for two main differences, and that is, first of all, rather than beneficiaries, you have unit holders. So they're a bit like shareholders in the company. They own the units in the trust, and they're entitled to the income and capital of the trust. There is no appointor usually in a unit trust, because an appointor isn't necessary. The unit holders get to appoint a trustee if they need to. One just key concept to understand about a trust before we move on is that the trustee has it acquires the legal ownership, and it actually trades the business in its own name. It just has the right to be indemnified out of the trust. So if the trustee trading the business incurs a debt, say of $1,000, and it can't pay that $1,000, then it can be bankrupted, or it can be sued in its own name, and it can be indemnified out of the trust. If the trust doesn't have the money to pay that $1,000, well, then too bad, the trustee is still liable. So, as Craig said before, you've got to get the right advice from your consultants as to which entity is best for you, but understand that unit trusts are there. They're not as popular as they once were, unit trusts, because the laws and the tax advantages of them have been whittled away over the years, but discretionary trusts and companies are definitely still very popular. Craig, do you want to quickly go through the last one, partnerships?
Yeah, so partnership, something again that probably is not as popular. It used to be that a lot of accountancy firms, legal firms, those sorts of things had to be a partnership if it wasn't a sole trader. Things have changed now, and you've got incorporated legal practices and companies, etc., that can trade as law firms or accountancy firms. So it's not as popular. There are, partnerships potentially in property development where you've got sort of joint ventures, partnerships where two companies form a partnership to operate a particular business, whatever it might be. As I said, it's not as popular as it once was. You need to speak to your accountant and lawyer if you're considering a partnership. There are liability issues with the partnership that may not be for everyone. So seek the right advice before you go forward with a partnership. If you are going to do a partnership, important, and the same goes with a company if you're having other shareholders involved, is you need to have some form of document that outlines what's to happen in the partnership or the company, so a shareholders agreement or a partnership agreement that governs the relationship and has in there certain things if one partner wants to leave, what's to happen, for instance. So important to document all of those sort of stuff at the beginning, so everyone's on the same page if anything does happen, either good or bad. So that's partnership.
Excellent. So the last thing that we're going to talk about today is your initial team. And this is something that Craig and I are very passionate about, and that's about the different consultants in business actually helping each other and working with each other to actually get you the right advice. So we're going to go through 6 different types of consultants for the initial team, and we're going to explain to you basically what they do, and also how they can help you and how they should work together. Now, not every single one of these consultants is necessary for every business, but we'll go through the key ones. Lawyer, of course, because we're lawyers, accountants, financial planners, business coaches or mentors, insurance brokers, employment consultants, real estate agents, and business brokers. Now, depending on what you're doing and how you're starting up your business, you may not need some of these. However, the first 2 at least are really crucial to the success of your business. So I'll kick off with the first one, lawyer. So obviously Craig and I are both lawyers. That's our training and our profession. So a lawyer helps you to understand the legal aspects of your business. So you go to a lawyer to find out what the legal ramifications of your entity are, what the legal requirements of your business are. So different businesses around in Australia and around the world have different government regulations. And you'll see, if you're watching the video, you'll see that we've got rules and regulations in the picture. And that's really what lawyers are about. Lawyers are about making sure that you're set up legally to protect yourself, but also to make sure that the regulations that are in place are dealt with properly. So lawyers are really crucial, and they're one of the 2 really key people that every business owner needs to speak to before they start up. Now, we understand, and we'll call it out, that some people don't like seeing lawyers, and we get it. There are certain times when you may not understand the advice that your lawyer's given you, or you may not understand the lawyer. Now, you really need to find the consultant that works for you. You really need to find that person who actually you can work with. So if you don't trust your lawyer, and I hope you do, but if you don't, then you need to go and find someone else. Find a lawyer that you trust. Know that you need to get the advice from the consultant who's actually going to help you. So that's lawyers. Craig, did you want to add anything to the lawyer one before we move on to accountants?
No, I don't think so. Other than don't be scared of your lawyer. They're normally good people.
That's
and
right.
Give good advice. But yeah, no. Moving on to accounting. We've sort of touched on accounting throughout today's show and the importance of seeking one as part of your initial team. They'll be giving you the advice from a tax point of view, asset protection point of view, which will be different to the legal advice. This is where the accountant comes in with tax advice or whatever it might be. You also want a good accountant throughout the rest of your business life cycle in terms of lodging your required documents with the tax office, because you can't avoid the tax office, and making sure you're compliant with all those sorts of things. And you want to be able to sit down with your accountant at least a couple of times a year to do tax provisioning and talk about those sorts of things. So you want an accountant that is on top of all that, and that you can speak to, honestly, and gives you some, real advice about the best ways of doing things throughout your business. So very important as part of your initial team to seek out a good accountant, talk to other people, and try to get, a word of mouth referral or whatever it might be to a good accountant. The next one, Jeremy, is a financial planner.
Yeah, so financial planners get a bit of a bad rap, and if you live in Australia, you've probably been watching the Banking Royal Commission over the last 6 months or so, and yeah, there's unfortunately, like in any industry, there are some dodgy practitioners, but there are a lot of good financial planners out there. Now, most of us don't have the ability to manage our own money. One of the great things about having a financial planner is that they can actually help you see your blind spots. So one of the things that Craig and I see very often in business is that people have blind spots, and often it's the things that they feel the most confident about, the things that they know the most about, or they think they know the most about. A financial planner will help you to manage your money and to make sure that where you're investing your money and where you're saving your money is done correctly. So you should have a financial planner. They are pretty crucial. As I said before, like lawyers, they do get a bit of a bad rap sometimes, but you do need one to complement the advice that you get from your lawyer and accountant. They're not what we would call a absolute necessity. They're not 100% crucial to the success of your business. But if you want to have any sort of financial freedom, and let's face it, that's why most of us get into business, then a financial planner will actually help you get there. Craig, do you want to talk about business coaches or mentors?
Yeah, absolutely. So with financial planners and lawyers, the term business coach seems to have a bit of a negative context as well. However, some form of coach or mentor as part of your team, we consider to be extremely important. Business can be a lonely place if it was just you, particularly at the beginning, and having someone there, a trusted advisor, you call it a business coach, whatever you want to call it, mentor, where you can speak to them, get some guidance from them, whatever it might be. They can point you in the right direction to speak to someone else. Whatever it is, you need someone that you can bounce ideas off and be a mentor. So you'd seek someone out in your industry potentially, or look for a business coach that operates across a number of industries. But it's important to have someone that you can speak to, bounce ideas off. A little bit of accountability too, if you've got a sort of formal relationship with a coach or mentor where they're touching base with you on a regular basis to not to check to see if you're doing things, but when you've got some form of accountability and knowing that you need to speak to someone, I said I was going to do this by then, you've got accountability there, you're more likely to do it. So important to seek out a coach. We did that pretty early on in our business, and we're still in a relationship with that coach, and the things that we learn from the coaching entity on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, we know is important for our business to continue as well and expand or be able to do what we want to do. So important to seek out a business coach or mentor. Next one, what's that? Insurance broker.
Insurance broker. So in any business, you need to insure yourself against the risk of something going wrong. Now, this may not be something that you intend to happen. However, mistakes do happen in business. Problems do occur, and insurance is there to basically be a lifeblood and a savior for your business if something goes wrong. So an insurance broker are really important here because they can help you get the best deal on your insurance. They can make sure that you're talking to the right insurance companies and setting up the right insurance policies for you. So don't try and go it alone. Get an insurance broker. We think this is crucial. Even if you're operating business from home, you need to make sure that you've got the right insurances in place to make sure that you're covered, because if you do something wrong or someone gets injured on your premises, then you could be up for a lot of money, and that's what insurance is there to do, to protect you, and a broker makes sure that you get the right advice. So that's insurance broker. Craig, employment consultants.
Yeah, employment consultant is another person that you should have in your initial team, depending on your business, but they're the sort of people that will take care of the employee side of things for your business. So they might be able to find a new employee. They'll be able to give you guidance about employment agreements, those sorts of things. So it's important to have one of those on call, I guess. If you need the consultant when it comes from employment, then you can speak to them. They can give you the right advice about what to do next, or find a candidate, whatever it might be. So it's one of those things that is outsourced to them. When you're first starting out, it'd be hard for you to do those sorts of things as well as do everything else. So have an employment consultant who can take care of those sorts of employee-related things is important. The next one, Jeremy, is a real estate agent.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that you may not need, but they are still important if you're going to rent any property or buy any property. So real estate agent, most people will know what that is, but a real estate agent will help you find a property that you need to lease or to buy. Again, they do get a bit of a bad rap out there, so make sure you find one that you can know, like, and trust. There's a lot of good ones out there. Get a recommendation from someone that you know. But if you're looking at renting property, or if you're looking at buying property, a real estate agent is crucial. Craig, the last one is a business broker.
Yeah, so you would have a business broker as part of your team, initial team, if you were buying a business as part of the startup. So if you were setting up your own business, a new business, then you wouldn't necessarily need a business broker, but it's still probably not a bad idea to talk to one anyway and see what else is out there, the type of businesses that are for sale, the value of those businesses, etc. That's part of your research into you're starting up a new business. So important probably to speak to a business broker regardless, but if you are going to actually buy a business, then they're the sort of people that will have the businesses on their books and will be selling those businesses. So you'll need to go through a broker in order to do that. So same as a real estate agent, but instead of selling property, as in real property, they're selling businesses. So important to seek out a business broker. You're probably going to have to talk to more than one, depending on the business you're after. There will be business brokers that are specific to a particular industry and only sell those types of businesses. So look into that and get a relationship with a business broker. I think that's it for today, Jeremy.
It is. Thanks everyone for joining us. We've gone through quite a bit of content there, but this is really important information. This is information that most business owners don't get before they start their business. They don't look into it. So you're already ahead of the game if you're using what we're talking about here. As always, with our Wednesday shows, we've put together a workbook, which you can download. If you're watching this on Facebook, you'll see that I've put it there as a comment on the Facebook to download that workbook. If you're interested in reading the show notes, or if you're listening to this podcast, then go to businesslegallifecycle.com.au/135 for our 135th show, and you will see there that there's an opportunity to download the workbook. As always, we really thank you for your time. The time that you're putting in by watching the show and taking the lessons and hopefully doing the activities that we set out in the workbook will actually help you set up a successful business. That's why we do it, because we want to help you to succeed. So please remember to like this video. If you haven't already, like our Facebook page, or however you're getting this content, like, comment, share it. And we'll be back on Friday, I think it is this week, Craig, with our monthly legal update for October 2018. Do you want to add anything before we finish off?
No, absolutely. Join us on Friday for that show. If not, we'll be back again on Monday for Fast Fix Monday. We're talking more about this phase of the business legal lifecycle. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
See you next time.